Hey everybody, Brendan here. Welcome back to another video of trying to become a National Master. So today we're going to be covering the final game in the Eastern Ontario Open. I'm playing against Emma, who is a titled player, so gotta be a little careful here. Another very strong opponent. And I'm playing with the white pieces. I'm on a -1 score. Can we win and get an edge? Let's find out. E4, E5, Knight F3, Knight C6, and Bishop B5, which is the Roy Lopez. A6, Bishop A4, and Knight F6 here. So I end up castling, because I'm used to castling. And my opponent takes on E4. I'm a pirate. No, so the problem here is I hadn't studied, and I still have not studied any Knight takes E4 at all, like ever. The big worry about Knight takes E4 lines is they're very, very sharp. So I try to go for the most boring possible position. I know D4 is a move here, and it's like one of those moves you should play. But Rook E1 is like you win your pawn back immediately, and it's like aiming for just like an equal position, and not hoping for anything. Knight C5, Bishop takes C6, D takes C6, and Knight takes E5, just gaining back my pawn. Problem is my opponent has the bishop pair, and actually I prefer black already, which is very unfortunate. But Bishop E7 was played, and I played Queen E2 already, which is just very, very dumb. I should not play this. D4 is a much better move. Knight E6, and then like Bishop E3, just normal development. The queen never belongs on the E file in these lines, it feels like, unless there's no rooks on the board, that is. But here, yeah, playing like this makes a lot of sense. Actually, Engine gave like F6, Knight F3 here, which is really interesting. And then like Knight G5, I believe. But that's not what happened. So Queen E2, bad move. And now things start going a little south for me. Knight E6, C3. Just preventing any problems there. Castles, D4. My dream in these positions would be like to play F5 in like one move. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So we see C5, very strong move. Oh, title players are so strong and so annoying. Okay, but D takes C5, Bishop takes C5, which develops their bishop, now attacking the F2 pawn, and just gaining more activity, which is kind of the problem here is in these Rui structures, even if it looks like a closed position, because arguably this is a closed position because there's 7 pawns on the board for each, it's practically just an open one because the position opens so easily with just a few pawn breaks, and the bishop pair starts to show its worth very soon. So Queen F6 was played. I played Knight D3 to attack their bishop to hopefully trade it off. Of course, they don't let me because they're strong. Knight to D2, Knight F4, trading off. Yeah, I was kind of happy about that. Knight F1 now. Queen to A4, B3, and then Queen to C6. That was a really interesting maneuver that they did. I was thinking of Bishop B2 here or C4. I wasn't really sure. I decided that I wanted to play C4 first. The idea was if Rook E1, I could play Bishop E3. And just kind of keep my queen on the E file and just say like, hey, I meant to do this. And that's what happened. So now they go Bishop F5. Knight G3, which is nice because I get a tempo. And of course, I'm just begging for like something like this. This is like, okay, this is an easy position to play. But they don't do that. They keep the bishop pair. And so I go for something pretty dubious here that I probably should not have. I played Queen F3. And I had a good idea in mind, I'd like to think. Where after takes, surprisingly, I don't think the structure is awful for me. It's not good, though. If they play a move like F6, for example, or even maybe like H5 or like, I don't know, something along those lines, even like Rook D8, they're just better. My structure's worse. They have the bishop pair. Nothing's going my way. But luckily, they played Rook E7, which is actually a huge mistake. This doesn't look like a mistake, but it is one. Because now I have F4. This doesn't look like anything serious, but when you look deeper into it, it's very serious. So, first off, B6 was played. And there's a few moves that I can play here. I didn't play any of the good ones, unfortunately. Bishop takes b6 looks quite reasonable, but rook takes d6 is by far the best move. C takes d, and then f5. You get 2 pieces versus the rook. Totally winning in this position. Their structure is also quite weak. Just winning. But I go for b4, which at first I thought was like reasonable. Like it looks like it's just winning a piece now, because the idea here is of like rook e8, then c5 takes, and then f5 we win a piece, which is pretty nice. You know, winning pieces is good. But they have an annoying variation here. Starts with f6. Now c5, bishop takes c5, or pawn takes c5, pawn takes c5, rook takes e3, pawn takes e3, and then bishop takes c5. So they get a pawn for it, and they have the bishop pair here. So it's not that bad for them. Turns out white has just a very slight advantage. It's nothing considerable. King f2, rook e8, and knight f1. It turns out, yeah, this is actually just like totally equal, surprisingly. Bishop to b6, rook to d2. But luckily, like, I thought this was potentially winning, just difficult to win. But luckily my opponent makes a huge mistake here, c5, which just weakens this rank, and gives me things to attack. So I start attacking, rook d6, rook b8. And I don't know why, like, I played like this. So I could have played like knight d2. Knight d2 is a very strong move here, with the idea of like bringing the knight to c4. If they go back or anything like this, if they try to get activity in this way, oh sorry, this is actually not a great move. King e1 is much better. This you know, we just won the a6 pawn. The a pawn's gonna run. We're now 2 pawns up. So yeah, totally winning. Rook c6 is also a huge threat now. Didn't go for that, unfortunately, which is quite sad. But hey, what can you do? Sometimes you just don't play well, and that's kind of just how I always play, not well. I ended up playing knight g3 instead, going for f5 and then rook b1, but this just doesn't work. They have c4, and c4 is a very strong move. I totally missed this. The big idea here is after f5, bishop to e8, I thought I had the move rook b1, but I don't have rook b1 because they can take on e3, which is very unfortunate, and that's something I totally missed. So I played a4 instead, trying to go a5, and then I can take on a6. But they don't allow me. They go a5 themselves. And all of a sudden, yeah, the position's just equal. a4 is actually a mistake. Here, if I just go like rook c1, bishop b5, and then a4, they take, and then I take on c4, I'm fine. I'm actually doing quite well here. Their pawn on c6 isn't the healthiest of pawns. Even after bishop b5, it looks like it is, but it turns out we have pretty good play here. The knight can like reroute to e6, for example. Our rooks are quite active. It looks kind of hard to win. It looks like there's a lot of good practical chances actually for black, but this is probably undoubtedly like the best way to continue the game. So didn't do that. I played a4 instead, which allows a5, which is something I totally missed, with the idea of like bishop c5 to b4, and this pawn being here is actually a huge asset for black. King e2, bishop c5, rook d2, c3, rook c2, and rook b2, and a draw was offered, and I accepted it because it feels like, if anything, I'm gonna find a way to lose this game. Which I was quite scared of. Like, for example, instead of that, I thought they were going to push with rook b4. Or like, no, not rook b4, sorry. Like some bishop b4 and try to, like, take the pawn eventually. Because it felt like the a pawn was extremely weak. Or, like, even here, if you get into this variation, rook b2, which I was looking at, king d3, I was a little bit worried about. And the idea here with king d3 is, like, takes, and then like bishop takes e3, and even if I take this pawn, bishop f4 comes, and there's like, you know, there's potential threats of bishop e5 check. If I move my king up, then like it feels like the rook is gonna lose contact with this pawn. I'm gonna lose the pawn. It might even lose the game. So when my opponent offered a draw after rook b2, I was really happy to accept that one. And that's how the game turned out. So It was unfortunate. I played the wrong move. I thought b4 was just best. Going back to it here, if we go all the way over to b4, it looks very strong. Turns out it's just not the move though, because of this rook sacrifice, or this exchange sacrifice, which is, yeah, just totally holding. And again, if I had found rook takes d6, which is something I would normally play, so I'm kind of sad I didn't. Like, going for a position like this, the more you look at this position, it's totally winning. Like, takes, the knight gets to like d4. Feels very, very good here. I love having two pieces versus a rook, and it feels like a 2-result game. Actually feels like a 1-result game. Feels like there's only white winning this. It feels like nothing else, but it's good to know, to not be like sucked into one variation of b4, for example, and to work on my calculation, which I started doing a lot more, a little bit, not after this tournament, but I remember that I was being a bit too quick in this one. I was just playing moves like kind of fast. So one thing I did after it was I started slowing down as much as I could and trying to really think deeper about the positions. But unfortunately, the next like 2 tournaments, I still have this issue to quite a big effect, where we're going to notice me playing like moves that I should not be making, and I make them quick. So that's kind of a weakness of mine here. I'm recording this in November, so I feel like that mistake is way past me. Like, I've been really slowing down, in fact, sometimes to a fault, as we'll see later on. But I think this was not the worst way to end a tournament. Even though I missed this rook takes d6, I was worse like straight out of the opening, because I just did not really expect and want this variation. But you get what you get sometimes, and at least I didn't lose it, which is kind of nice to think in consolidation of that. So that's going to cover it for this tournament, the Eastern Ontario Open. Now I will see you guys in my next event. So have a good one. Bye-bye.